Welcome to the Horse Speak Book Club. I am your host, Laura Wilsey. I am the co-founder of Horse Speak alongside my partner, Sharon Wilsey, who is the author of this book that we're reading today, Essential Horse Speak, Continuing the Conversation. The Horse Speak team is dedicated to giving horses a voice and being their well-deserved advocates. We provide evidence-based knowledge of equine body language that is intrinsic, observable, and repeatable. We have created many online learning experiences from a video club to a year-long program, and we have webinars in between. So if you would like to learn more, as well as see us in person, go to our website at horsespeakacademy.com. We attract here at Horse Speak a varied group of individuals who love horses. And so, with that being said, no matter what horsemanship background you come from, we're here to be inclusive and make sure everyone is safe no matter what. Just saying. Okay, let us begin. We are going to be beginning on page number 8 of Essential Horse Speak. How to use this book. If you have read my first book, Horse Speak, the Equine Human Translation Guide, you have already learned a lot about what horses are saying. In this book, I am going to provide all the advancements that horses have shared with me since 2015 when Horse Speak was published. I am going to give you a path to take your work with Horse Speak to the next level. If you are new to Horse Speak, you will find enough foundational information in the introduction and pages that follow to get you started. But if you like what you are reading, then I suggest you pick up a copy of Horse Speak to receive the in-depth introduction to having conversations with horses in their language. Here, we will be building toward a more complete understanding of how to incorporate Horse Speak into our everyday interactions and training through the following steps. Here we go. Number 1, solidifying basic language skills. We all need to start with a general understanding of Horse Speak fundamentals. All of these were introduced in my first book, but I have learned more over the last 5 years that I'm excited to share with you. Number 2, observing the horse's environment and movement signals. Most people are familiar with the game of chess. Don't worry, you don't need to know the specific rules. Just that there is a board of equal size squares that game pieces are played on the board in a particular fashion. Each piece has a role and rules it must follow. I have determined that this theme can be applied to every group of horses and the environment they live in, yielding valuable information about how horses navigate around each other and around us. I call this the chessboard, and we'll explore it along with movement and expression, giving you important tools for taking your horsemanship to a new level. Number 3, knowing the buttons and what they do. Horses have many communication centers on their body, or buttons as I call them, and in Horse Speak, I taught you 13 of them. Now, I have added 2 more, the sit button and the bridge of the nose. I have also shared all the new connections and conversations I've discovered since my first book. Understanding herd dynamics and your horse's type. Over the years, I have put a lot of thought into how to present personality types in horses. While others have relied on such methods as categorization, I have been hesitant to do so because I do not like to label horses, or people for that matter. I like to give all beings I meet the opportunity to learn, grow, and potentially sustain a transformation from wherever they start to a better end result. The reason I have now decided to include personality types in Horse Speak is to better assist you in understanding the role your horse is playing in his daily interactions. When you understand who your horse thinks he is on the chessboard, it can go a long way in helping you deepen your empathy and achieve greater success. I have, therefore, come up with 3 basic energy types and designated roles in the herd from what I have observed over time and experience. Exploring the nature of horse conversations. Number 5. In my first book, I discuss this idea and provide the stages of that conversation as the 4Gs: greeting, going somewhere, grooming, and gone. Now I will take this a step further with a related container of understanding to help you remember where you are in a conversation with your horse. I call it IINN: initiation, introduction, negotiation, and navigation. How do you initiate a conversation with your horse? How do you introduce yourself to an object? How do you negotiate getting out of a stall, for example? And how do you navigate together in movement? Number 6, starting the conversation outside the box. In this chapter, we will explore one of the marvels of horse speak, namely that we don't have to touch the horse to talk to him. With new tools that allow us to communicate from a distance, we discover safe and effective ways to initiate connection and source breakthroughs with tricky cases. In addition, we further the skills we've learned by using them, to navigate around the chessboard, giving us a means to communicate and work together in spaces beyond arenas. Number 7, inviting the horse to come with you. Here we apply horse speak protocols to the familiar realm of leading a horse. Haltering, leading, and backing up in hand can be less challenging and a more rewarding experience for both you and your horse when elements of horse speak are applied. I explain best practices for handling on the lead rope and illustrate the all-important advanced therapy backup, which has lasting effects in many scenarios. I have come to understand it can be a door that opens the horse to better and better associations with himself, as well as in his connections to you. This chapter is full of strategies to improve communication between you and all the horse's buttons. Number 8, advancing your body language at liberty and on the lunge line. This chapter shares horse speak concepts for working with the horse on the ground at liberty and on the lunge line, 2 keys to developing that rapport we desire with a horse. I find that time spent understanding the horse and his balances and imbalances on the ground translate more success in the saddle. A key component of this is dancer's arms. When I introduce readers to it in my first book, Horse Speak, which I introduced to readers in my first book, Horse Speak. Now I expand upon its uses and the ways it can help us communicate with horses more horizontally as they might communicate with each other. Number 9, riding with a new perspective. Finally, we will take all that we have learned about communicating with the horse on the ground and bring it to our shared experience in the saddle. I explain that rather than having 2 worlds in our minds, one of groundwork and the other of riding, that we need to consider it all one, because the horse is talking to you wherever you are. With new focus on a gentle yoga rein warm-up that can be incorporated into a riding session and deep exploration of the kinds of things horses don't like about being ridden, and more importantly, what they do like, this section opens doors to a new awareness on horseback. Whether you are reining, ranch work, jumping, or dressage, the conversations we have for a happier, willing, more athletic horse are the same. Throughout, I provide skill builders, myth busters, and buzzwords so you can have a profound learning experience and be able to cognitively understand the language of the horse and explore the empathic link that you could share with them. Then in part 2, you will find the dictionary of conversations, some basic horse message interpretations that will be most useful as you begin or further your implementation of horse speak concepts. The dictionary is broken into 3 sections: how to say, how to fix, and messages from the horse. Please remember, these are generic and the middle of the road concepts that will have to be adapted to fit you, your horse, and your specific situation. This book is like providing some spices such as vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg, but also garlic, onion, salt, and pepper in order to help you prepare a tasty meal. Some recipes will need more of one or the other, but a good cook knows how to combine the flavors to create a delicious dish. Too much of one or not enough of the other can only sometimes be determined by tasting along the way. You will find your particular combinations, but first you may need to try everything to get an idea and a feel for what flavors even are. Just a second. All right. Alexis.
All right. Horse speak and training. Training is the act of educating horses about the jobs we are asking them to do for us. For too many people, taking a horse along the path of education gets confusing and difficult when the horse has difficult behaviors or dangerous ones. There is no magic wand that makes everything better in a day. If you have a horse, you need to think about your relationship as a daily practice. But on the bad days, if you know the basic protocols of horse speak taught in this book, you will at least have an improved understanding of your horse and be able to help him get to a better place. What I personally love about this work is that not only can you have more effectiveness with less dust flying, but it can bring more qualities of bonding, affection, connection to your relationship with your horse. I think the reason most people are interested in applying horse speak to their training goals comes down to one thing. They want to know, is my horse happy with what is happening? Or in other words, is my horse happy with me? Many people have confessed to me that they, at some point in their lives with horses, hit a crossroads in their desire to ride. The fact is, in varying degrees, some ethically minded folks often now question if riding and training horses is actually okay. I too had these questions. I can say it took years of solid investigation and all sorts of agreements and adjustments to my training goals for me to find a place that felt right. I even stopped riding for a year while initially researching horse speak. I had horses who were trained to bring themselves to the mounting block and come to me and slip under the saddle as I held it, waiting to place it on their backs. I thought that this must surely be a sign they wanted to be ridden. However, I still had a nagging feeling of discomfort. I thought again how a willing servant was still a servant. This is why I've continued my own journey with horse speak. Whatever reason you are drawn to it, and however much of this language you choose to learn or use, keep this simple reminder in mind. It's never a bad idea to try to both be understood and become more understanding. You and your horse will have all manner of topics and tasks you need to discuss and practice together. And while I cannot possibly know what all of these are or will be, I want to give you enough tools to be able to try different words at various times, set up preventative maintenance tactics so you can problem solve, and have fun exploring the new avenues that are sure to open up. As you read and practice horse speak, the most important thing to remember is this. Horses want, deep down, to live in peace. Their inner craving is to have a calm nervous system and a feeling of safety and inclusion. If you approach everything you do knowing this, you will have a greater success than if you think it's up to you to curtail your horse's outbursts of poor behavior. The goal in your human body language should be to remove tension, act welcoming, and offer your horse a safe place to land. Part 1. Horse Speak Essentials. Introduction. Transitioning from an old model to a new vision. What humans now seek more than ever from horses are relationships. In the past, we used horses as vehicles, and our model of horse training reflected that. It was geared toward making a horse a useful tool. Any relationship that was gleaned was a benefit, but not required. The more successful trainers could often get both done, relationship and working machine. But the relationship was the byproduct of training, not its foundation. In our modern world, the new paradigm is a desire to have horses engage emotionally fulfilling relationships with us. The horse as a vehicle is a different mindset completely from horse as my friend. There is a vacuum of knowledge between attaining what we used to want and what we now desire. And when we don't know an answer, we tend to fill that space with projections, fears, frustrations, or misinterpretations. These may point us in a direction away from what we intrinsically value in our relationship with the horse. The benefit of understanding horse body language is that it can point us back toward our values. Being able to read and interpret the horse's postures, gestures, and signals, as well as understand equine expressions, means that you no longer have to ask other people about your horse. You can just ask your horse. Imagine what it would be like to work with a horse using nothing but your body language. No whip, no special halter, no treats, just you. Imagine what it would be like if, at the moment you arrive at your horse's paddock or drive up the driveway to the barn, you stick your head outside the back door of your house, beyond a shadow of a doubt that the conversation with your horse has begun. I'm not saying there is not a place and time for training tools. When fairly and safely used, whips, special halters, and treats can all be part of a good training repertoire. What shifts here is the idea of requiring these items to begin a conversation with your horse. Body language only requires that you have a body. You are enough.
The wisdom of the ages. The famous horse trainer and Greek general Xenophon, I hope,
Xenophon.
Xenophon, thank you, recommended that all green horses be quietly walked in hand by their grooms for up to 2 years. In this way, he believed horses would develop a wish to be with their handlers more than even other horses. Xenophon found that when the horse not only relied on a person for food and grooming, but also spent all day in the person's company learning about the world, this fostered the sort of trust and respect the general cherished in a good cavalry horse. Here we have an interesting juxtaposition. We have a famous cavalry commander setting up the conditions through which a riding horse could not only learn to trust and respect a person, but also would become trustworthy and have the necessary loyalty to a human being to be counted on in the heat of battle. This same sentiment is often echoed in ranchers' tales of relying upon good cow horses. When you really have a partner in dangerous or perilous work, the burdens are shared and needs on both sides can be met. Humans instinctively understand that a tremendous bond can be forged between horse and human. English novelist R.S. Sturtes famously wrote, "There is no secret so close as that between a rider and his horse." With all that being said, riding was still, of course, something that was done for a purpose, to fight or flee the enemy, to get from here to there safely, to fulfill whatever task the rider needed, bond or not. There was still a component of teaching a horse to be compliant and obedient to human desires, cues, and mastery. In today's world, we tend to still have this desire, especially in the arena of sports and horsemanship. We want an obedient horse to run faster, jump higher, perform more beautifully, or simply carry us safely along the trails. We can acknowledge, however, in most situations we find ourselves in, what we do with our horses tends to fall under the banner of things I love to do with a horse, not if my horse doesn't get me there, the medicine won't be delivered. This changes the nature of our desire for obedience in the horse. Obedience was once paramount in any training protocol. To be fair, this made sense, but I have found a way to incorporate a healthy set of mannerly standards in the horse by learning how, why, and when horses create them within their own herd dynamics. We can have healthy, well-balanced, and mannerly relationships with horses, whatever it is we enjoy doing with them, by learning to understand and utilize their own protocols for creating the very same thing. The process of horse speak. When I was discovering the protocols of horse speak, I organized the material in a very specific manner. The information was overwhelming, and the translation required long hours of trial and error. Understanding this process will be helpful to you as you learn to and apply horse speak with your own horse. Basically, I began by studying a precise gesture between two horses. Let's use the muzzle to muzzle touch as an example. I'll call it M to M in the paragraphs that follow to simplify. I might see M to M in the morning when a pair of horses was first turned out together. However, I might also see it later when horses were coming together to share a pile of hay. Then I might notice it occurred after the two horses had separated for a while and then came back together, or after an altercation when it seemed like they were making up. After a while, I began to notice that M to M happened much more regularly than I previously recognized. Because the variables of this contact also included distance contact when the horses aimed M to M from far away. From this, I realized that it was not only the M to M that was significant, but also the flaring of nostrils that occurred during that interaction. Now, not only was I watching for M to M, but also for nostril flaring. As I tuned into this added element, I noticed there were distinct nostril flares, and while some were related to M, some were not. In addition, some included an audible breathy sound. For the purposes of my research, I tracked the baseline of M to M, both close up and far away. I noticed the frequency, timing, and delivery, whether it included nostril flare, and if it did, then the frequency of the nostril flare. Now another component began to be apparent: raising and lowering of the head while engaged in M to M. The nostril flare seemed to change with the raising and lowering of the head. By now, I would have a range of context: high or low head, low or soft breaths from the nostrils, M to M that includes direct contact or indirect distant contact, both of which could occur when the horses were directly in front of each other or when they were side by side, often at a 45-degree angle. Sometimes there was the addition of hoof strikes, stomps, or displays. Finding context. In order to fully understand the content of these messages, I had to ask a new series of questions. What led up to such displays? Why did they happen? What happened during the interaction? What happened after? What was the end result? When two horses engaged in such a way, how did the engagement affect the social order, if it did? Did the behavior offer benefits to the herd and its overall well-being? Did it seem to serve or create bonding, settle a dispute, engage in play, or promote problem-solving activity? Did the behavior occur only at specific moments, or did it happen frequently throughout the day? Can I witness this behavior in 10 horses I have never met before? The bell curve. With the answers to these questions, I had a range of data about M to M engagement between horses. If organized and plotted out in a graph from the most to least intense, the resulting image was what I called the bell curve. At either end of the bell curve is an equine red zone, extreme withdrawal on one end and extreme engagement on the other. Both of these are reactive zones when horses' behaviors can be unstable, and he isn't primed to learn or communicate. In the middle of the bell curve are the yellow and green zones. I think of a traffic light when you should stop, when you can proceed with caution, and when you can go with confidence. When looking to engage with a horse, it's difficult if he is in one red zone, fearful and hesitant, or the other, in your face. But in yellow or green, the middle of the curve, you would find a reasonable middle range of predictable patterns in interaction related to M as well as others. It is here, in the middle of the bell curve, where it is easiest to teach humans how to enter a conversation with a horse. It is extremely difficult to teach the extremes, the red zones, when first learning horse speak because of the range of variables and the sheer number of potential responses and outcomes that exist. The middle range is just plain easier to comprehend, imitate, and teach. This is why most of the target information I share in the pages ahead is set to the middle range. Note that I will dip a little into the extremes, both red zones, when discussing certain topics.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, for your reading today. We did a good job. So, yeah, this is full. How does this land for you, ladies? I think we're all ladies here today. Um, because I have quite a bit of underlining that I have found interesting as we go through the pages of this book. And one of the things my eyes just went to, um, horses want deep down to live in peace. Their inner craving is to have a calm nervous system and a feeling of safety and inclusion. The goal in your human body language should be to remove tension, act welcoming, and offer your horse a safe place to land. I really like this. And um, the other thing I underlined, it's never a bad idea to try both, be understood and become more understanding. You know, please, the chat is open. If you want to talk, raise your virtual hand. So for me, and really how these pages sum up what we're here for in regards to horse speak is clearing up misunderstandings, because you were taken through the journey of Sharon and the M to M conversation, and the 7 questions that are the basic questions of how to sum up and decode an interaction with a horse, whether it's horse on horse or human on horse. And when we are in our video club, for example, or even here, we hear stories and questions, and the bell curve is what names how we can throw spaghetti on the wall and see if it sticks. And who is our person? Who is our horse? Where are both people, horse people and human people, on the bell curve? Because we all bring our certain things to the conversation as well. So basically understanding where we are we able to be in a full-on green? So that would be with this information, green is great. We are basically able to navigate whatever is going on in front of us. The horse is also able to navigate what's ever going on. You make a mistake, the horse is like, oh, you're fine. Versus the other time, mistake could be, I don't know, you move too fast. You just flicked your hand up, you weren't paying attention, and the horse spooks. And so then you might have been in some green, but then how interesting if your hand gesture goes up and it's just like swatting a fly and your horse kind of jumps a little bit. How interesting. Is that horse actually in green, or are they trending in the yellow toward red because of that reaction, that response? That's a big response to something that is not actually intended for them. So, there's so many variables that we do want to arm you as the end consumer of understanding this language, because it's not about Sharon and I showing up and doing the thing. Like, for example, I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to go meet Alexis and her horses at her property. And so we're going to assess what's going on. We'll see Alexis be with her equines, and then Sharon and I are going to do some stuff with her equines. And so we are going to be problem solving during this time we're together, and then be like, oh, this is what we're seeing. And this is where there might be a little bit of, well, there's some understanding together, mutual understanding. And then, oh, here's some misunderstandings. And so then, great. Now we can, see the misunderstandings and then bring those to the understanding bin. So then there is this mutuality, and the big thing about Sharon and I were just talking about this, we do work with horses in the red zone, and it's not our favorite thing to do, but we're there. We'll do it. Absolutely. Because it's about the horse being able to get back into their green, getting into their regulation, being able to live in peace inside their body. And the big thing that we have practiced over the years, especially Sharon, is that whatever's happening in front of us, especially because if we're working with a red zone horse, we are on the other side of the fence. That's just what happens. If there is a moment Like we must put hands on a red zone horse. And yes, by golly, we'll do that. And because of practicing and noticing and being congruent and being in understanding of noticing up, I got a little bit stressed. I bet you everyone here has had those moments of it's winter, almost over, thank goodness, the snow falling off the roof. Or something similar if you are lucky enough to live in a warm environment where you don't have to deal with snow off the roof. There might be wind, trees falling, something. Anyway, you know, that thing has happened and you get that shock through your system. And that the horse is doing it, you're doing it. So how do we recover from such a big adrenaline rush, basically? And that's called in the nervous system world. We could do science. A little bit of science is fun. I've become such a geek in this journey, just saying. I because of like I didn't know, to be honest with you, how interested I was in researching things and in pattern building and in communication. I'm like honestly through this journey, it's just so surprising that I found this part of myself that was just waiting to be ignited and to be here. And so, how do we recover from a big experience? And we're not zoned out. Zero is not zoned out. It's not zombie. It is my baseline. I understand it. And then I know when I lose my baseline, and I know how I have some certain skills that I have to recover. Breathing is a big thing. When we're stressed, we forget to breathe. It's how interesting is that, right? Or our postural changes through the experiences. If we're an X posture kind of person, shoulders back, that's going to change just baseline nervous system. This is I'm defensive. This is a stressed posture. And so that's why we're teaching O posture to be able to navigate through. I might need to go up into this kind of X, but I'm going to go back into my O. So then my nervous system can stay in this cohesive place. And that's how, especially if we're in an emotional rehabilitation situation with a horse where there is more red zone than yellow or green, then this is where we have to be like, we'll go into the experience with the horse. Can I help you come down? And then take a break and do a swish tail and then reassess the situation. One more thing. I mean, there's many things, but I'm going to read the chat. Let's see. I like this piece. She says, I'm not saying there is not a place and time for training tools. This is on page 16. When fairly and safely used, whips, special halters, and treats can all be part of a good training repertoire. What shifts here is the idea of requiring these items to begin a conversation with your horse. Body language only requires you to have a body, and you are enough. So let that land. Because what I was saying is talking about kind of brings this piece in about our noticing of our body and the changes that happen. And we get into body habits. That's just a fact. And, it's kind of interesting. I have step grandchildren, 6, 4, and 2, and to watch their human growth and development and see that right when they are really integrated in their body and moving and jumping and all this stuff, then they go to school and they're sitting. So then it's, yeah, luckily, actually, where the kids go, they have ice skating and they have bicycles and they have Forest Fridays or Woods Wednesdays, so they're actually, this is amazing. We didn't have this growing up. They're moving their bodies. They're actually having more activities, from what I understand. And the kids love it. They absolutely love it. And it's still this kind of like sitting, learning topics that may not be taught in a way that is conducive to everyone's learning style. But we'll just swishtail on that topic because that is a whole rabbit hole that has nothing to do with horses. So let's see. So many times we get so task oriented that we don't create space for seeking to understand. Pat, thank you for that comment. That is such a good point because what we call it is task tunnel vision, and we get just stuck in doing the thing. Doing the thing, we're doing the thing. And then we are just like, forget that we're with another being, and that goes along with the whole talk about wherever it was, pardon me, when we're back in the day, being with horses for going from here to there and everywhere. And they were using, we were using them for plowing the fields and stuff. So, here, yes, on page 17. With all that being said, riding was still, of course, something that was done for purpose, to fight or flee the enemy, to get from here to there safely, to fulfill whatever task the rider needed. Bond or not, there was still a component of teaching a horse to be compliant and obedient to human desires, cues, and mastery. In today's world, we tend to still have this desire, especially in the arena of sports and showmanship. What we want an obedient horse to run faster, jump higher, perform more beautifully, or simply carry us safely along the trails. We can acknowledge, however, in most situations we find ourselves in, what we do with our horses tends to fall under the banner of things I love to do with my horse. Not if my horse doesn't get me there, the medicine won't get delivered. This changes the nature of our desire for obedience in the horse. Obedience was once paramount in any training protocol. And to be fair, this made sense. But what Sharon has found to incorporate a healthy set of mannerly standards in the horse by learning how, why, and when horses create them within their own herd dynamics. We can have healthy, well-balanced, mannerly relationships with horses, whatever it is we enjoy doing with them, by learning to understand and utilize their own protocols for creating the very same thing. So with that being said, on page 18, there is this picture, which I love this photo. I really love the pictures, minus the fact I took most of them, and really proud of how it all came together. It is the horse in the middle is actually, and now I forget his name, but we read the second to the last chapter, I believe, in Horses in Translation. He's the horse that was actually like getting out. He left his home and went to Heidi's house. And so he's the one, he did get adopted out and found a home where he could be exuberant in his curiosity, like being in the child's pool and everything. So that is Knight. That's his name. And there's Scout and then Jordy in the background. So we spent a lot of time with them at the beginning of our journey. And Scout is no longer with us, but he was such a great, great teacher of Horse Speak and such a beautiful mentor of the herd. It's absolutely incredible watching Scout. And Jordy was kind of a joker prince, and he's still around, but you'd have to double lock his door on his stall because he would open it when they would go in for their snackerels at lunchtime. So, Miss Nancy, for safety, you might need a stick or some sort if you are in a pasture with a horse in the red zone, if you need to maintain your bubble of space. Yes, this is true. The stick helps us maintain an X if we need to have bigger energy. And this is where, some of us can modulate ourselves really well and get into energy of like, no, thank you. And the ultimate goal of being in a herd of horses is being able to have our peripheral vision on 100% and then see who's the shark, so to speak, coming in to mess up what's going on. And yes, and the thing is, if we are doing something like that in the herd, it's just like practicing one thing and hold, go away face, hold, and then even having our other hand available, hold, we're not moving right now. And so the big thing that we want to, when we have to bring up our energy, we talked about this in the first book, is about energy without emotional discharge, which typically for women, we do struggle with this activity of just energy, please, no thank you, without having the anger come through. And we need that anger to go fight, win, basically in the situations. So can we bring up the energy? Nope, don't do it. Versus, we then get a little bit disoriented and the word is not coming to my tongue. We look weak basically when we start flailing around and being like, it's just like we can start getting a little bit cuckoo. So the goal is through practicing your own integration and understanding yourself and practicing our zero and having energy with zero is then I can say, don't do it. Like I talked last week, I believe, about Jagger. We're navigating some herd dynamics and we have separated Rocky and Mummy, and Jagger and Luna are living together, which is great. Actually for those two to work out their relationship together. But Jagger is moving Mummy in more of an X posture and more energy than we would like for everyone to stay safe. And so I was like, let me see how today is with the ladies. And it was a day where I was like, yep, this doesn't look like it will be safe for me to leave the property for the day. So Jagger had brought in some X posture and drove Mummy away at the hip. And I'm like, no, you didn't, woman. And so with that being said, I then was like, with getting Mummy in hand, the manners, Jagger hadn't been really practicing her manners sometimes with this dynamic. And I've been having to be a big X posture with Jag and saying, don't do it. And so this particular day, Jag was facing outward and I'm here and Mummy's in front of me. And Jag's near the fence. So I'm like, Jag, hold hand, hip, sit. You stay like a dog. And I'm like, don't do it. And I'm pointing at her cheek. You stay there. Hold. And it was amazing. Jagger was just like looking at me like out of the corner of her eye over her left hip. Like, I mean it. Don't you do it, Missy. And she stood there. She was just like, okay, I won't move. I promise. So, it's like these clear intentions, similar to how we would, deal sometimes if a child gets into a red zone. How do we say, no, thank you, and redirect? This is what you can do. You can really see the flared nostrils and cupped chin in the horse in the background too. And yes, exactly. Yes, on in Geordie, yeah. The nostril flares for greeting and for scenting, you can really see, them navigating their nostrils and how interesting. And if they're really flared, because I think in this scene, if I remember, this picture was taken, close to 9 years ago, I think. These guys were in the riding ring and they had been running around. So, there's a little bit of energy. And then there's also for scenting, like I said, and for greeting, their nostrils will flare. And if they're frozen, their nostrils may be frozen open, or um, they might be breathing deeply. So, that's the thing of like being able to notice their nostrils as well as their jump up button to see what's going on. Because if we have a horse that's not breathing, then that gives us some information. Just like I was saying about us, we can get into a stressed place and we might forget to breathe too. So their nervous systems are so similar to ours. So what else, y'all? What else has struck your fancy in this reading today? I also liked how Sharon did go through finding context in order to fully understand the content of these messages. I had to ask a new series of questions. What led up to such displays? Why did they happen? What happened during the interaction? What happened after? What was the end result? When two horses engaged in such a way, how did the engagement affect social order if it did? Did the behavior offer benefits to the herd and its overall well-being? Did it seem to serve to create bonding, settle a dispute, engage in play, or promote problem-solving activity? Okay, thanks, Kim. I didn't see that. And then did the behavior occur only at specific moments, or did it happen frequently throughout the day? Can I witness this behavior in 10 horses I have never met? So that last one is for Sharon, but y'all could be, these could be some questions that you take out to the barn with you and see what you see and film it, So if there's like a big interaction that happens, which is the ones that sometimes we end up focusing on versus these minute interactions where there's not a lot of movement, but so much depth is happening, then you could take out these questions and be like, hey, what do I see? Because this is how I have had to learn this language is by practicing my observation skills. And that this whole thing is based on observation. Yes, there is empathy, but then we also need to have the theory behind us and some mechanics so then we can pull the whole room together and really actually have conversations with horses. So, Miss Kim, why don't you? I think you should still be able to unmute yourself. Let's do it.
Yeah, I just didn't want to jump in,
I
obviously, on
know I
anything.
didn't see your hand raised, so I thank you for
Okay,
saying something.
that's okay. I'm one-handed at the moment. That's all, so I
Oh,
can't type well.
is there, are you okay?
Yes, I
Are
am
you
fine.
are you holding something?
I'm holding something. Yes.
Okay.
Um, I found the timing on this incredibly interesting because, as is often the case,
Yes.
um, I was really struggling yesterday with
Mhm.
trying to explain. So, one of my volunteers at the ranch happens to be my father, which of course adds a interesting dynamic when you're trying to teach stuff. He has a bit of an old school mentality. So, this idea of the introduction of transitioning from an old model to a new vision
Mm,
really jumps out at me today
yeah.
because, just as example, when we're moving our lead mare from her pasture to go to work to the arena, depending on who's with her, she's the one leading.
Mhm.
She is out in front of the person. She is not in the best. She's anxious. She's got anxiety going from the pasture to the arena.
Mhm.
Unless it's me leading her, unless it's my husband leading her. Anybody else, she's leading.
Yeah.
And yesterday we were working on that. And my dad has this, yeah, but she's just excited. She knows she's supposed to go to work and she's just ready to go. And why is that a problem? Like, because there's anxiety. Yeah, but she does the job. Yes. And why does she have anxiety? Can't we help her not have anxiety? Yeah, but she does the job. And I think I went over this about 2,500 times in
Yep.
different ways. And he kept coming back to this. And this very first paragraph
Mm,
on this, where it's saying, the model of horse being the vehicle, doing the job.
yeah.
That's all that mattered.
Hmm.
And he kept going back to, well, I just get to know your horse and have 20 minutes to brush them and love on them first and then go do the thing. Well, yeah, but you still didn't ask the question. You still didn't ask the horse if they wanted to. Well, he stood there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. It's so difficult at times and frustrating to try to explain, depending on the person. I want a better relationship
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's interesting that that's where this came into play right here.
Yeah.
Is
I
that
mean, this whole opening piece is like perfect for what you're
yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
But I guess part of what my reason for raising the hand is as well as I would have to assume just by the fact that that's literally one of the very first things in the introduction, that that is one of the most common questions that people have when others wind up asking about the why are you doing this type of thing? Why aren't you just training them? Why aren't you whatever? It is that question of because I want that relationship. I like this horse. She's one of my favorite beings to be around. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't I want her to be less anxious? Why wouldn't I want her opinion on things if I have an ability to ask it? I like her.
Right. And in the work that you're doing, that's really what you're promoting with the people is for them to have a voice, for them to have a learning experience and a therapeutic experience and have a change. To like show up at your ranch, have a thing, have whatever experience it is, and then leave feeling better.
Hmm.
Right. So then, it is very poignant to what you're going through in this moment. Because the horse as a vehicle is a different mindset completely from horse as my friend. There is a
Hmm.
vacuum of knowledge between attaining what we used to want and what we now desire. And when we don't know an answer, we tend to fill in the space with projections, fears, frustrations, misinterpretations. And so the vision I had when you were telling your story is you are followable. If the horse does have a different leading position with you, then she says, Kim, you've got me. And
Yes.
right. So if she's not being the map maker going ahead, then with the people who she is, then there's something inside that person where she is like, sorry, darling, you can follow me because I know what I'm doing. Like that's kind of like it's so the flip-flop of that experience. So there's something that the folks that, regardless of who it is, there's something that she is struggling following. And then,
Yes.
right? So therefore, then the session is because we are doing a therapeutic experience. Then we are getting an equine who is getting a little bit into a yellow, reddy kind of zone, let's say a little bit orange, and before the session even starts.
Hmm.
And so, therefore, because of timing and everything, and maybe, yeah, sure, if a horse likes to be brushed, that could help them come down. But, and if your nervous system is on fire, and she's probably a stoic character, so she's not going to act out in an outgoing way. She's probably internal and
She's my perfect girl. I trust her with absolutely everything. And we make sure that she comes over early enough that she has enough time to decompress before clients get there.
yeah,
And once she's in the arena, I can help her come up, down some as well. And we do all of the safety things there. It's just, of course, I can't be everywhere at once.
right,
And even if she were to all of a sudden take off from the person she's being led by, she's going to come straight to the arena.
right.
In other words, she is that good. So I do trust with regard to that. And um, so 100%, it does take her a little bit. And you are correct. She'll come in, and even if she doesn't, even if I don't feel like she's had enough time to decompress, she will come in and do the job and do it beautifully and kind of grit her teeth through it,
Right.
right? So you are correct. Yes, she is that girl. She is 100% that girl.
And with that, from what I perceive you're saying in the either in the background or in the foreground, is you would like to help her not to have to show up and do the thing. You want her to feel good about it.
Correct.
Right. So, do you know what the thing is that helps her get like what her value is? Does she like brushing?
No, so her genuine and again, this is where the quote unquote argument got yesterday was what we call volunteer horsey time. And it was, hey, we're going to pay attention to where is the root of the anxiety? When does the anxiety start to hit? What is her
That's
value?
great. Yeah.
Is literally what I had on a note card yesterday that I handed to them saying, here are the things we're going to do. Here's our steps today. We are
Awesome.
going to look at what the value is.
Yeah.
Well, week 9. So, um, and hers is, she is map maker. She is protector director. She is those things. So even when we came out, She had her head up, ears up, and didn't even look at us. She had her head on something. She had her eyes on something. So I was like, okay, we are seeing right now her value is protection. Her value is safety. So let's address that.
Right.
And we started there.
Hmm.
And she came down beautifully as soon as that halter went on.
Yep.
That's when anxiety hits. She's pawing at the gate. She's got her head up. She's going. I'm like, okay, boom, found it.
So this is not Jazzy?
No, nope.
Okay.
This is Presley. She is our buckskin lead mare. She's the lady in charge most of the time.
So did you how long have you had her? I'm just
I've
wondering.
had her for 6 years.
And so she had a life before?
Yes, she's my only horse with PTSD.
Okay.
She had she had a little bit of rough, and
Hmm.
she is an amazing therapy horse, and she has done this job beautifully. And this anxiety has
You want
only
to
become a recent kind of thing.
uh-huh.
So to me, I was like, okay, so something along the path of once the halter has gotten on in between here and the arena. And again, I have volunteers, and
Right.
their intentions are great, and
There's
stuff happens.
inconsistencies
Yes.
with each person and all that stuff with people. Yeah. So one thought is how interesting. So you found that she did like the awareness of safety and protection.
Hmm.
So check, we know every day, no matter what, we must do this. And that's the one thing you might have to some people, you might have to be like, it doesn't matter. We did it yesterday. Today's today. There could have been coyotes. There could have been something. We know number one, safety and protection, period, the end. No discussion.
Hmm.
Right? So then what is her original association? So this does with the halter. This does happen with people and horses where the horse is like, "Oh, you're talking to me? Well, here's something I don't understand." And it could be the halter could that's why I was asking if she's had a life before you because she might not have gotten the halter explained to her,
Correct.
right? So you
It's
could,
possible.
yeah. I mean, it's always, I mean, we when we do yoga rain and saying hello through the rain with horses who are like trained up, dressage, like doing all the things, they're like, what? They like freeze. They're like, I don't know what you're saying. It's so crazy. So it's possible reintroducing her with the halter, if that has like she's good, environment is good, tool is bad. How to reintroduce the tool,
Yeah,
you know? So
exactly.
that could be fun and interesting for your, horsey time.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I was just answering Alexis. Um, my dad is a very linear thinker, not a whole lot of emotion
Yep.
for him. Kind of that nice stoic boomer style
Yeah,
of,
sounds like my
you
dad.
know, linear thinker.
Yeah.
So to him, it's step one, step two, step three, we're good.
Mhm.
And to him, that's the relationship. The task is the relationship.
Yeah.
That's so that was part of the struggle. And then PJ. Um, yes, since we lost our boys last year is really when most of the anxiety for her cranked up.
Yeah.
So she had her primary mentor slash protectors within the herd pass away.
Right.
So she has definitely that anxiety has picked up a bunch since then. Yes.
Yeah. So then
Answer
they
though.
must have been some grounding rods for the entire herd and especially her. And so then
Yes.
the goal would be to show up and fill in the blanks
Yes.
from
So
those
I
geldings.
know
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting timing. I know we're out of time, but
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
whole concept, I was like, dude, I struggled so hard yesterday with this because I think I spent 40 minutes trying to describe in 15 ways of why this is important.
So
I will
it
say,
could,
just as a funny, I also said, she put you in full position. Do you want to be the baby? Is what I said to my dad.
well, good for you. Good for you for, saying whatever about our dynamic, Dad. I'm gonna stand up for my horse. So,
So
you know, do you think you might read this to him?
I literally have it underlined, and I have put a note on the side of it while Alexis was reading it that says "read out loud."
Good for
It
you.
is on my.
Because if he's a linear thinker, be like, okay, Dad, let's talk sentences. How
Yes,
does this land for you?
very much. Yes.
Cool. Well, thanks, Kim, for being on the audio today and being vulnerable and talking about what's going on. Because again, you're in this journey, and it's so awesome to hear you talking because I I believe that there are other people who are going to hear this, whether they're here today or in the future, will totally resonate with your struggle, whether it's a family member or people that you're working with when you're running a program on how to communicate with people. That's the one of the things that can be the most challenging from a position such as myself, but also then those of you like yourself running a program and being like, hey, we're doing some new stuff now. So thank you so much for doing this because I love what you did with the note card, and this is what we're doing. Week number 9 of building your foundation. And that's really great. You're, really applying what you're learning and seeing what you can see with your horses.
Definitely trying to. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, darling. Take care. All right. Well, that ends our day today, everybody. Wow, what a full on reading as usual. I'm so grateful to Sharon for putting in the time and effort in this 100,000 word book that we're going to continue reading week by week. Again, we have no meeting next week, and it was a pleasure sharing space with you today. We want you to have the gift that the horses gave to Sharon. Like it said at the end of Horses in Translation and the beginning of this book, which is the exact and specific nuances of how our body language can communicate clearly with horses. And all we need to do is take the time to learn how. Please check out our website to learn more about in-person and online learning opportunities, horsespeakacademy.com. May you enjoy the journey of learning horse speak, and most importantly, please have fun while doing so, and have a great rest of your day. And if you're on the video club, I'll see you soon. Take care, be well, and I love you very much. Till next time.